What's up, guys? It's your boy James, aka 68J, coming to you on this Friday with my friend, the man, the myth, the legend, Jake Claver. Did I say that right?
Claver, you got it.
Claver, professional athlete, ex-professional athlete, crypto extraordinary. I mean, just somebody that I've been following since I've been in the space. Means a lot to me to have him on. And many of you guys know that my goal on this show is to bring the most brilliant minds to the forefront and talk about what they mean to me. And Jake is one of those guys. So, Jake, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm just excited to be here and chop it up with you and provide some value for people.
Well, man, you're a huge inspiration, but you shared some things backstage because as soon as I looked at you, I realized that you're not normal. You're next level in shape, and then come to find out you're a ex-professional athlete. So can you tell us who Jake is prior to crypto, if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So went to school for finance, played golf at a high level in high school. Actually played with Jordan Spieth in high school.
Oh, wow.
I got my butt kicked. And I had never shared this one. I'll give you all. So the whole reason I started working out and got into bodybuilding, I missed a tee time my senior year. I got a girlfriend and stayed up too late. And as punishment, my dad made me start getting up at 4:30 and we go to the gym every morning. And it helped him out too because he needed to get in the gym.
Okay.
So he'd take me every morning, and that's when I really kind of latched on to working out. And then through my time in industrial sales. So went to college. While I was there, started working at Fastenal. They're a Fortune 500 company. They do fasteners and PPE and a bunch of industrial products. And started working there part-time while I was going to school, and then seeing the sales guys making a lot of money. And I was like, all right, here's the way to do it. So
Right.
Got into sales with them, worked my way up, ended up managing locations for them. They kind of moved me around to underperforming stores. And all during this time, I'm doing the bodybuilding, right? So competed on the national level 3 times, never did get my pro card. So we're never quite pro. But as I mentioned to you, highest stage weight ever I was 230 at 5% body fat.
That's ripped. That's
5'11" is my height. So 24/7, 365. You're a pro athlete or been a pro athlete, you know what it's like. You
Right.
eat, sleep, and breathe something. Takes a lot of discipline, and but it's fun, right? Because you have a goal, and that translates to other things, especially if it's something physical. You can build that determination and self-discipline and then apply it in other places. So I did that in my career, and ended up getting acquired by another company to come help them scale their business. We doubled that business within a year. Things didn't go the way that I thought they were going to while I was there, but it allowed me to kind of stack some cash, save for a house for my wife and I. And I stayed out of the market, even though I went to school for finance, because everything that I learned in school said everything was overvalued. So
Right.
PE ratio, Buffett indicator, like I would look at stocks and I'm like, okay, well, there's going to be a time where it comes back. There's going to be another crash like 08. And that's what I was waiting for. So COVID happened and I had some liquidity on the sideline, and I had my 401k from my previous employer that I rolled to a self-managed IRA. I got into stocks with all that all at one time. I didn't get the bottom, but I was close. Tesla, Amazon, Facebook,
Wow.
Google, rode those back up. And before it got back to quite where it fell from, I started looking about, to de-risk. I didn't know if it was going to be a dead cat bounce or what was going to happen. So that's when I found crypto. I was watching a debate between Peter Schiff, who's still relevant,
Right.
really relevant right now, and a Bitcoin guy.
Wow.
And that's when I realized this stuff is software, right? And really started to understand what Web3 was going to be. And so I took everything that I had made in the stock market and rediversified into crypto.
Wow.
First thing I bought was Chainlink. I got in under $4. I got into Theta at 9 cents. I got into XDC at 0.03 of a penny.
Jeez.
I got into
What year was this?
This is 20.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so did really well, as you can imagine, in 20 and 21. And then because of that, and my background, I understood, I needed to start finding people that could help me. CPAs, accountants, estate planners, lawyers, somebody that can manage my money, all that stuff.
Right.
And I started aggregating those professionals. I joined some mastermind groups and put myself around some really intelligent people that were in their 40s and 50s ahead of me. Paid more money than I was comfortable with to get into rooms that I shouldn't have been in.
Wow.
And that's really what accelerated my career. And just really blessed, people making introductions for me. And with that, I was able to aggregate a lot of people that were proficient with digital assets in each one of those regards I mentioned before. And so I got on Twitter maybe a little over 2 years ago, and just started talking about, mitigating your taxes, setting up your estate, making sure that you're prepared for a liquidity event that we've all been hoping was coming a little sooner.
Right.
I'm okay with it as, it's taken as long as it has to play out because it's allowed me to get in position, right? And a lot of other people too that may have not. And so anyway, when I started talking about it, everybody kind of gave me the deer in the headlights look, like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I thought, okay, well, this seems to be a niche in the market. Let's build a business around it. And so that's what we've done. We built a Digital Ascension Group. I'm the director of that multifamily office that specializes in digital assets. We have the only wealth management custody provider for standard custody and trust is the partnership that we use for that for our clients. And we formed an RIA that specializes in digital assets and the investments there. We're kind of on the forefront with the partnerships to be able to borrow, lend, and create financial products and other services around this asset class. So, from A to Z, there you go. Kind of a little backstory.
Yeah, man. You're next level. And I knew that coming from the speaking background myself, I used to study, obviously listen to the Tony Robbins, Les Browns, Jim Rohns, all those guys. And when I saw you, I was like, this dude is next level. Your mindset, you could tell you've been seriously trained and have done a lot of work in that field. And so it was one of the reasons that inspired me to pay attention to what you were doing. I always try to, like I told you backstage, I never invented anything. I just follow what successful people do. And one of the things that I love about people like you is it gives credibility to the things that you talk about. When you talk about Chainlink, okay, well, hey, if this guy's in it, it means something. It doesn't mean you don't do your own research, but, I'm going to do that before I follow some guy that worked at, McDonald's talking about Chicago coin, right? And because it's got 15 zeros, right? And so the point I'm making is that I definitely appreciate your mindset, what you stand for, your teachings. Definitely means a lot. And I want to ask you this question, and I'm not even sure if you're in it or not. Being from a financial background, was there any attraction to XRP? If so, why?
Yeah, absolutely. So just be transparent with you. It's the only thing I own at this point.
Okay. Hey, that speaks volumes, brother. That speaks volumes.
Yeah. So if you've done any research, you can see the people that are involved with that network in particular and building things on it, right? So Ripple and OpenCoin and everything that has transpired with that over the last couple decades, well, not a couple decades, 12 years, they've been able to integrate with all the large investment banks and central banks and the IMF. They've had meetings with anybody and everybody that you could think of that's going to be part of the financial system.
Right.
And then you've got other companies that are also developing things that are interoperable with that network aside from Ripple. And that's really the main piece here. I think a lot of people associate Ripple with XRP. Obviously, they were gifted the XRP and have helped build out a lot of that infrastructure.
Right.
But there's other people that are going to be able to use that infrastructure and the token and the network to settle transactions internationally. You were talking about, sending money to all of these other countries backstage. And that simplifies that, right?
Right.
That's kind of like the killer app for crypto is settlement and finality. And then you got the transparency. It's immutable. It just allows for a lot of the functionality for real-time payments that has never existed before. And everybody has these fancy UIs that make things seem real-time. But scratch a couple layers deeper, and you understand that the legacy systems are 50 years old. Swift is a messaging system. There actually is no instant settlement or way to transmit value cheaply or instantly between parties. And so, I think that there's a huge value proposition for that token and that network in particular. And I think the reason I'm positioned there is the ROI there outweighs anything else currently. So if somebody else could show me something that was potentially going to be deemed a tier 1 asset in the banking system and have the amount of ROI that token is going to have, I would jump ship. I would, present me some different data, but I don't try to be a maxi. I just look at what's going to have the most value in the future versus the current value now. I wish I got in on Bitcoin. I'm a little jelly of people that got in on Bitcoin.
Right.
But so yeah, to answer your question shortly, yes.
But see, here's what I love about what you just said. And we're not Bitcoin maxis. I'm sorry, we're not XRP maxis. But I love the fact that you said something that is, I wish I would have got in earlier on Bitcoin. And what it does is we're not sitting around talking down. I know a lot of times people tend to talk down on Bitcoin, and I think a lot of it is just because of the price, they can't afford it. So when you can't afford something, you try to dismiss it. But it's definitely not in the same boat as XRP and what it's meant for. I know that big time. And one of the things I want to ask you, because we understand, as I was talking to you backstage about market conditions and the fact that I'm getting so many messages from people like, oh my God, and you see all these people in my Telegram, and I'm just like, look, man, if you've been around this long enough, you understand this is normal. Talk about market conditions right now and the fact that we're having this little, bit of a red market. But a lot of people didn't even expect, they were hoping Bitcoin would get over 50, and here we are dipping down in the 60s. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, every bull run in the past, if you look at it for Bitcoin, and as long as the constraints remain the same, this is going to play out the same way. Okay, so until constraints change, and some have changed, we've got an ETF now, we've got institutional adoption, and things are a little bit different. But in all bull markets, you get a 30 to 40% drawdown multiple times on the way up. Okay, we haven't even seen the worst of this one. I'll just tell you that right now.
That's right.
I think we're going to see more red. Well, and not financial advice.
Nope.
Never is. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Facts. You're spitting facts. Yeah.
I think that we are in for a little bit more red before we see some more upside. And there'll be a narrative that goes along with that. There always is. And it'll scare people, and they'll sell at a loss, and then it'll rebound, and then they'll be out, and then buy back later when it's higher. Retail trade off emotions, right?
Yeah.
And they don't look at previous charts or history. I don't know if you've ever looked at blockchain backer or not.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Kills it on the TA game.
Amazing guy. Yeah.
And he's I watched his deal this morning. He said we're going to 28K is where he's looking for Bitcoin. That's a 50% drawdown from more than a 50% drawdown from where we were at the top, right?
Right.
And I think he's probably right. And
more often than not.
Yeah. So buckle up. Because, and again, there could be other constraints that change that cause, most of the time when we do get the drawdown of Bitcoin, you get that volume and the liquidity moves into altcoins.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're waiting on here, is some upside for a lot of the positions that maybe you and I hold, which I'm happy about. People that are holding Bitcoin are probably not so happy about.
No. And I think that's one of the things that I try to talk about is right now, depends on what asset, but specifically we're talking about XRP, it moves with the market. And there's going to be a time once it's utilized and embraced for what it was created for, that it will detach itself. I think a lot of people are I think it's going to be one of those flip of the switch, but not to the point where, along with what Brad Garlinghouse is saying, flip of the switch when it's embraced, but also a flip of the narrative, because there's so many people who have been so pro Bitcoin and everything surrounding it, and so against XRP, especially when they were, in the midst of the lawsuit. And now we're becoming victorious, or we're getting out of that we're heading towards the ending stages of that. I believe a lot of people were, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, because I think that's a question that I'm going to, let me see, as far as that 2 billion, I don't want to jump too far. Yeah, I don't want to jump too far ahead of myself. But I just think that what we're seeing now is actually, in my opinion, bullish. And if there's anything, and I don't mean as far as price, I mean as far as this whole thing coming to an end. If there's any time that I ever thought a settlement is probably near, is when the person or the SEC has actually mentioned, yes, a stupid amount, but it's an amount. And therefore, it starts the conversation. And I think they're at the point right now where they're desperate. I think they're at the point right now where the government doesn't want to give money because they're embarrassing themselves. They're lying. They're getting caught in lies. And so I think at some point they're wanting something. And I think that the most likely place to get it right now is from Ripple. Yeah,
well, they have a small win, small feather in their cap, right? They say, oh, well, we got them. We got something. Because they done lost on the other 3 points before this.
Yeah.
If they can get something, then there's at least some settlement. They didn't lose because if this goes to court at this point, like a lot of stuff is going to continue to snowball that's not in their favor.
No,
and I think they know that. I think that there's potentially been settlement offers on the table before this, right. But you need some type of framework to give clarity for things. You need a clear road to operate within here in the U.S. And I think that's what Ripple's fighting for. I think that's why they've drug it out as long as they have.
Yeah.
I think that they had opportunities to be done with this sooner, but they want clarity for the full market here, so that other people can come to market and know what to do to get to market and not have to deal with the SEC. They've got the resources, the people, everything that you need to be able to combat this. And it hasn't been easy for them. This lawsuit's been real. There's a lot of people that I talk to that think maybe it's orchestrated, and maybe it is at a high level, right? We can get the tinfoil hat on, but the implications for the people involved with the lawsuit have been real the last 3.5 years. Right. And I think they'll be very excited to have some closure to it.
Right.
And to your point, if the SEC did get a small win or a settlement, they can say they did their job and then move on to the next thing, which, we got Coinbase, we got Uniswap, we got all these other Wells notices and other things that are coming down the pike here. And if they've got some ammunition from a settlement with Ripple and some type of framework that they can look at and say, okay, well, we operated like you guys just settled with Ripple because they did this.
Right.
Then it helps the space as a whole.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And we're going to get more into that in just a second. But I want to shift over to someone that means a lot to me. And I think a lot of it is just because of where he came from. I'm a guy that came from welfare. I'm a guy who came from the hood. I'm a guy who had to go against, many challenges. And once I changed the way I started thinking and questioned everything, my life changed. And so John Deaton. What does he mean to you? What do you think he means as far as crypto as a whole for him running against Elizabeth Warren? Your thoughts?
That's a big deal. I'm really, really excited and proud of John. I've had the pleasure of meeting him a couple times in person. He always seems to be running away from me when I'm trying to talk to him. But anyway, I'm excited for what he's been able to do. To come from the background that he has, he put out the book, which was real strategic, by the way. I want to applaud him on this. He put out that book and got all the skeletons out of his closet.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Before he ran for office, right?
Smart.
You don't have anything to come at him for. He done told you everything that he messed up on in his life. In the book. Yeah. And so, what he's done for XRP holders, he put together the lawsuit against the SEC for the 75,000 people that signed the petition. There might be damages paid out. A lot of the reasoning that we got the ruling that we did on XRP was because of his involvement in the case. And so, just kudos to John. And when he first announced that he was going to run against Elizabeth Warren, I wasn't sold on it. I thought maybe, okay, he's doing this so that she has to address the issues that she's been avoiding.
Right.
But now that we're kind of in the midst of that, I think he's got a shot. I think he could really take the spot. And I think that would be a big deal for our government if we could get more people that understand what this technology is involved there and be able to educate others in the space on it. I think a lot of the officials that sit in these seats, they have an idea of what crypto is, but they really don't understand it at scale. And it's hard to regulate something or be informed when you're passing regulation around something if you haven't been educated on it. So I'm excited to see him step into that role, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And this is, I'll actually share this right here. I don't know if you saw this or not, but it was something he put out that just talks about how, as of right now, he's been able to raise more than Elizabeth Warren, 1.36 versus her 1.1 million. So that's huge. I'm really happy that everyone's supporting him, his cause. And I think he's very underestimated. I saw this one X post that he put. He goes, I've been underestimated my whole life. He goes, now you guys are going to see me in action real time. And I love it. That dude's something else. He's
a workhorse, man. Every time I've ever seen him and been in an event with him, he's still working the whole time he's there at the event. He comes on and speaks and then goes right back to whatever he's doing with whatever case he's involved with or whatever he's drafting. Self-discipline and work ethic at another level.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I want to ask you a question, and I want to make a comment prior to that, and that is, I was in awe. I went to XRP Las Vegas last year. I'm going this year. Obviously, I'm in Vegas. I was in awe, not because I've been at a lot of conventions. I spoke on some of the biggest stages, shared the stage with many amazing speakers. But I was just in awe of the minds. There was just a lot of brilliant people at that event. I felt special being a part of the XRP community at that moment. I looked at my wife, and it was just like one of those moments, man. It's kind of like when Judge Annalisa Torres ruled in XRP's favor. I told everybody, I said, look, this is not about the price. If you're looking at the price, you don't get it. I don't have an exit plan at $1 or $2 or $3. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But my wife hugged me and started crying when that ruling came out, because it was such a big deal, because we understand what we hold. We understand that this is generations to come. My question to you is, when we look at Ripple, and obviously you've been around, you saw that dip from 68,000 to 15 and some change, and everyone started running. CEOs were taking off, and banks were closing down, and companies were running for the hills out of the country, and layoffs were crazy. Ripple kept growing and expanding and hiring and acquiring other companies. I mean, some of the most brilliant minds around the world. And so my question to you, Jake, is Ripple a solid company? And if so, why don't more people that we see, these big time maxis in Bitcoin, they don't see what we see? Why?
They see it.
Okay.
I'll tell you they do. Two things. They all have a bag. I'll tell you that they do. I have a lot of people that I know that have a public perception to other people, and they feel an obligation that they built this persona and brand that's associated with that, right? But they all have a bag of XRP, just as a hedge in case they are wrong, right?
Right.
And a lot of them understand what the technology is and what it does. They're bullish on Ripple, the company. A lot of them own the private equity in Ripple.
Right.
Some of them, they can't grasp the token, but they understand the company, right, and the partnerships and the investment there. Which I'm like, if you like that, then why don't you like the technology and the infrastructure and the token that allows them to operate at scale, right? Anyway, disconnect. But
and not only that, Jake, but I want you to continue on. But it wasn't sexy. Being a fan of Ripple and being open about it wasn't sexy years ago. I mean, you're going against the grain. There's better things that are more sexy and attractive and fast and all those type of things. It wasn't sexy to be in Ripple, if I could say that, for some of these big people. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's the banker's coin, right? It's kind of like you're against the whole premise of crypto, right? If you're in alignment with them, it's like pitting against you're pitted against everybody else in the space almost. When not in reality. It's the actual application that everybody's hoping for. You want peer-to-peer payments at scale for instant transactions, right? And we talked about this earlier. So Bitcoin could have been that if they would have allowed for the block size to expand and not hard fork between Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin that we know today.
Yeah,
that it could have fulfilled that, but it was stopped, right? And so now the only thing that they can latch onto is a store of value, and it's not really even good for that because it's so volatile. And anyway, so I digress. But a point I was going to bring up earlier when you're talking about the company scaling, Amazon was not sexy after the collapse in 2000, right? But Bezos knew that the company was growing. It was continuing to move into new market segments. It was continuing to expand its partnerships and do all the things that it needed to, even though the stock wasn't performing well when it was $6 or $9 after the collapse. The people that got in then, though, where are they at today? Right? Like, how many stock splits has there been? I don't even know. You would have done extremely well if you had bought it then. So I'm always looking at the things that are out of vogue, the things that the other person kind of sticks their nose up at, like, I don't want any part of that. That's when I'm like, okay, well, what is this about? If something's sexy, it's already appreciated. I probably missed that boat. Like I said earlier, wish I would have got in on Bitcoin sooner. Yeah. I didn't. I'm looking for the next thing that's going to have significant ROI. And a lot of times that's going to be in the place that other people, they're not looking at. Right.
That's right. No, that's I love it. That's spot on. Now I want to kind of shift into a different direction. I'm not sure if you were part of this. with Fruition Productions, the documentary. I believe you were. What does that documentary mean to you, and what do you think it means to crypto moving forward?
So, have you ever seen The Big Short?
Yeah. Great movie.
So, like Michael Burry, he was just ahead of his time. He actually created the instrument that where he could bet against the housing market. Didn't even exist before credit default swaps. And he like went into the banks and was like, "Hey, I want to take this other side of this bet. Can we create something?" They were like, "Yeah, absolutely. You're going to lose on that." And he's like, "Maybe I am. Take my money." So he created that, and that's kind of how I see. And that movie has other characters besides Michael Burry in it, right? It goes over these storylines for different people that saw something that were crazy. My definition of crazy is somebody that can see something that other people can't. Wow. Sometimes that's hallucinations and they are crazy. But sometimes it's people that are crazy enough to see opportunities that other people can't.
Right.
And so that's really what I think this documentary is about. It's the people that are involved with this ecosystem before everything plays out. And you'll get to see who these people were and how they got into it, their background, their knowledge and expertise. And that's from all different angles. He's going to have an episode dedicated to different pieces of this story. I don't know which one of those I'm going to fall into. I talked more about the financial system and the benefits of the technology and what XRP is and where the space is going. I didn't really get into the ETHGate side of things. I didn't really talk about the development side of things, but I think people saw the trailer and may have jumped to conclusions about this, but that's really what it is to me. I think it's kind of a version of The Big Short, but if you could have filmed The Big Short while it was happening and actually had Michael Burry and these other people in it, that's what I see.
Yeah, and it's so brilliant because they're talking about something that's so relevant that I don't know when this is going to end. It's not like talking about what happened with COVID. It's something like that. It's like it's relevant. It's the biggest thing on the planet as far as crypto. I think and when I got to know Chris and Maya very well. I talk to Chris probably once a week. Maya as well because she's part of our ladies' night every Friday. Mm-hmm. And I've referred some people to them. They were going to actually film here at my house in Vegas, but there was another event that kind of overlapped, and so we're going to be at that event. They're supposed to bring the crew and the camera out there, but just people don't realize like these guys started in a position of just being sick and tired of being sick and tired. They were working a 9 to 5. He talked about his days at Google. He was just getting frustrated. She was frustrated. She actually was the one who actually found crypto. They got into it. Became millionaires with Doge, moved that over to, she became even bigger millionaires with that, moved over to XRP and other things. And I say all that not to tell their business because they've openly said this, but just to say, most people have been like, hey, I made it, kudos to me. I made it. I'm done. Just be quiet. But they put themselves out there. They put their money up. They didn't have to do that. They're creating a documentary. They don't even know if it's going to get picked up or not. They spent, their time, their money, and the thing is more than all that, the type of ridicule and the type of negative feedback, dude, is crazy. Like, so you really have to be amazing to put yourself in that position. I just think it's a different version of what John Deaton is doing. And so kudos to those guys, man. And kudos to you for them selecting you. I can't be more proud of them doing that. Yeah.
I'm having to get to know Echo a little bit. He was nice enough to, connect me with them, and they flew out. It was the coldest day of the year here in Texas when they showed up. Our original spot that we had booked to shoot closed down, and so we had to go find another spot. But we made it happen, and that's on their own dime, like you mentioned. Like they're not being funded by anybody else. This is their own volition and conviction that they're doing this. And super kudos to Chris and Maya and everything that they're going to have, because they've been able to put up with a lot and take it to another level. The production quality of this is fantastic. So hopefully people enjoy it. I think a lot of people, it's a reflection of you. If you've got time to go poo-poo on somebody else's stuff, you may not be happy with your own life. You need a little introspection if you're doing that. People that are out there building, doing other things, they don't have time to sit around on the computer and take shots at other people. I've never seen anybody ahead of me taking shots.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, how do you hate on somebody, Jake, that rented the Bat Cave? I mean, come on, bro. They're cool as heck. You know, it's like, really, the Bat Cave? Are you serious right now? So, let's talk about, you hear Kathy Woods over in ARK Investment, Michael Saylor giving these I wouldn't say crazy prediction. It's predicated off a lot of different things. Those they're very brilliant, but you hear numbers like 1.6 million per Bitcoin by 2030 year. Different numbers with Solana from Michael Saylor. You hear or from Rob Powell and all these different guys. Where do you see crypto in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, huge market cap in comparison to where it is today. It's still nascent, right? So a lot of people see these prices that things are now. Gold itself, I think, is now like a $13 trillion market cap. We've seen some appreciation there, especially over the last week. Right. But crypto is like 2 trillion plus. Nothing. Stock market, 600 trillion. So, and this asset class is going to eat all of the other asset classes as they become tokenized, right? So all of that value is going to move onto distributed ledger technology and be transacted with at scale. So you can imagine, especially as we get adoption of real world assets and tokenization there, the volume and the market cap of this space is going to appreciate substantially. When I was at Swell last year, Brad Garlinghouse said 100 trillion is kind of what he thinks in the next 5 years.
Wow.
I think he's a little short-sighted on that personally. I think that there's going to be even more value than that over the next 5 years that's going to move on to these networks. So, are those prices accurate? It's hard to pick winners, right? If the constraints remain the same, I could definitely see some of those prices that those people have predicted.
Yeah.
If regulation and actual implementation at scale of these technologies goes a different direction, then you could see appreciation on some different assets in comparison to those. So I have to see how it plays out. But I think it's going to be substantial.
Right. Yeah, I love the fact that you've done some things business-wise. You put some things in place for people maybe who are looking to figure out where, how to hold their assets and things like that. The question that I have is your thoughts on, let's see here, where was I here? Your thoughts on strategic long-term wealth management of XRP. Because I know there's some things that you have in place for that.
Yeah, so we have the custody solution with standard custody and trust, like I mentioned earlier. The AMMs, your ability to take leverage loans against the asset. So I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of infinite banking. Mm-hmm. And for people that in your audience that maybe have never heard of that, it's where you take loans against a life insurance policy. So you'll fund a life insurance policy with cash value. That cash value is invested in something that appreciates over time, like stocks or other instruments. And you're able to take loans against that. Loans are not taxable because it's debt. It's not income. And so as long as the assets appreciate faster than the interest accruing on your debt, then it's infinite, right? You can continually pay that back with the interest that's being accrued. And so you always have a stream of income that's not taxed.
Wow.
So that's how I see this kind of progressing with digital assets, especially as things are adopted and used at scale. There's a potential, if you're able to leverage loans against your assets, they continue to appreciate as more value moves onto the network, that you could continually draw loans against it at low interest rates, especially, let's say it's a tier one asset in the banking system.
Right.
Probably have pretty favorable interest rates with that. And then you can redeploy that capital in other ways while your asset continues to appreciate and you don't have to lose exposure that produces cash flow for yourself. So you talked about, some of the businesses that you're in backstage. You might buy, and it could be the boring stuff, right? Like people want to be sexy with tech and all this other stuff. There's going to be a ton of businesses that go up for sale over the next 10 years as baby boomers retire. And if you're able to aggregate small pieces of that, I mean, there's laundromats, car washes, insurance agencies, like all the boring stuff that people are still going to need. If you can buy those and get the cash flow off of them, right? And you can owner finance them. You can do SBA loans. Like there's a lot of ways that you can get into buying businesses with the loans against your assets, right? At low interest rates that, then fund your lifestyle. A lot of people are like, I want the Lambo or I want the Porsche or the nice house or whatever it is. Why don't you buy a business or an asset that cash flows that pays the payments on that, right? And then you don't have to worry about, oh, well, where's it? A lot of people that win the lottery, they burn through the money. They don't invest it anywhere where it continues to appreciate or produce cash flow for them, and money runs out. If you got $100 million, you can go through $100 million. You think it's a lot of money until you're down to the last mill, and you're like, where did that go? You know, I'm sure you got buddies that play ball that are in a spot, right? And they just mismanage their capital because they weren't educated. So,
man, look, I don't want to cut you off, but I've got friends that were some of the biggest names in what they did in basketball, went head to head against Jordan, some other things like that. And one particular friend of mine, I saw him, putting up CDs in Walmart. And so it's horrible, man. It's horrible. Yeah, that's facts. A lot of stories like that, but yeah, for sure.
You hate that for people, right? Because you know where they were at one point, and if they had just made some different decisions, then they'd be set up and they don't have to worry about it. So that's what we're looking to help people do. We want to create the products and the solutions and give you the professionals that we make sure that, you set yourself up and you really are in it for the long term, and you're not in a position of a lottery winner where you're bankrupt in 3 to 5 years after you made it in crypto.
Yeah. Now I see this gentleman, Jason J. Shouts out to Jason J. Says, Jake set up our LLC. He gives you the pathway and tools. So for a person that wants to come in and figure out what they need to do, or how do I make money with my XRP? Let's say a person has 100,000 XRP and they want to come see Jake. Now, is this something I would find here with your? It looks like Linktree here. Is this a way that I can get hold of you? Is it join the Beyond Broke Mastermind? Is that how I get hold of you?
Yeah, either one. Digital Ascension Group. There's the wealth, the family office site. It's digitalfamilyoffice.io. Okay. And that's where we work with clients to hold their assets in institutional custody. One of the pre-qualifiers for that is the assets are held by an entity, so either in a trust or an LLC. That way, you're able to get the tax benefits of either one of those structures. Okay. And then we work with you to orchestrate different partnerships through that custody service to be able to lend, loan, borrow, or stake that XRP to be able to earn income. The AMMs are going to be a big part of that. So we've finally got those live. A lot of people are just putting their XRP into the AMM, right? And then you have exposure to impermanent loss. You have lopsided pools if you're just doing one-sided. There's been a lot of people that have lost money on putting that in. And hopefully you're just playing with it, right? And trying to get your bearings about you. Right. What we want to be able to orchestrate, and this is where qualified custody and wealth management is going, is you're going to be able to escrow your asset in qualified custody while it stays insured, lock it up, and then delegate a liquidity line to the pool. Okay. And then that liquidity that you delegated will be represented in LP tokens. And that'll provide liquidity in the pool. There's probably an interest rate associated with that. This is something we're still working through, right? Okay. But again, it's a loan. It's kind of a loan against the asset that's delegated to the pool. You're able to earn interest in the pool. You can take those LP tokens, sell them for other people to arbitrage the pool with and earn that income. And then later on, hopefully we're able to take loans against the pool. Wow. And so if we can do that, then your LP tokens can just stay in the pool, provide liquidity in those ecosystems, and you can draw lines of credit against them. Again, the infinite banking concept. But these are all things we're looking to build over the next 2 years here with the partnerships that we're orchestrating.
Right now, how soon will? Because I mean, that's I've got a huge interest in that, to be able to park a large amount of, let's say, an asset like XRP and be able to earn money off that. How soon? How far out is something like that going to be available for someone that wants to do that?
It really is going to depend on the NYDFS and their approval of Ripple's acquisition of standard custody. So the majority of our clients hold substantial amounts of XRP there in that institutional custody. Okay. Ripple themselves, they've got a product called ODL, right? Or on-demand liquidity. They do loan the XRP to banks. And they use Uphold as their partner to convert that to whatever fiat currency they want and swap it back. There is an interest rate that they earn on those loans. Simon would not tell me what that was when I talked to him at XTC in Austin last year. But I'm hopeful that there's a potential partnership there where we're able to partner with Ripple and lend that XRP out that's held in qualified custody. So that's probably a 3 month away deal. And then the AMMs, those are live at this point, but we don't have enough liquidity in XRP to provide liquidity to institutional liquidity pools. That might change over the next few months here. I'm hopeful that it will. And if that's the circumstance, then the RIA will be doing research on which liquidity pools we should be delegating to, and then advising our clients on that. So also probably within the next 3 months here.
I love it. I love it. Guys, do me a favor. By the way, shouts out to the almost 1,000 people live that are watching this on X and YouTube. So I appreciate you guys in a major way. We're going to the next question, which is thoughts on SWIFT and XRP from a political standpoint.
From a political standpoint. So, I mean, like, geopolitics is huge, right? You've got the US dollar, which still remains the reserve currency for the time being. And SWIFT is basically the reason for that, right? We control the financial system. We're able to sanction people. Russia's not happy about the current circumstance, neither is Iran. And now there's implications for Tether because we're aware that, people are utilizing that network and they're being able to transmit transactions with sanctioned countries, not dealing with KYC, AML, and OFAC.
Right.
And so the XRPL would allow them to institute a lot of the same things that SWIFT already has available, right, and allows. So I'm hopeful that there is an integration between SWIFT and RippleNet or R3 to be able to settle those international transactions that SWIFT is processing. It'll be $5 trillion a day that they move around the world. Jeez. And so if that volume were to move onto the network and be able to settle through CBDCs and XRP, I think we could see some pretty substantial, price appreciation for the underlying asset and the network. But anyway, yeah, I think that the incentives are in line for them to adopt the XRPL in some capacity, and it actually would benefit the U.S.'s ability to impose sanctions and operate with who wants to. But it also provides a level playing field, right? So BRICS, you've got all of this coalition of other nations that are fed up with the U.S. and their hegemony. And now we've got Iran and Iraq and these other Middle Eastern countries selling oil to other countries in other denominations aside from the U.S. dollar. Right. And so I don't think that the U.S. dollar sits as the reserve currency much longer. I was telling people that, 4 years ago, and people looked at me like I had a third eye. And now all of this has transpired since COVID and everything else has played out. And most everybody understands at this point. They're like, nah, yeah, it's pretty much over. Right. So I think that transition is going to happen naturally. And like I said, that the XRPL allows each country to operate like it needs to and enforce whatever they need to. And I think it's in alignment. So I don't think it's that far off, but it's interesting to look at it from a political point of view versus just settlement and the benefits that provides.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. How big was the news of an XRP stablecoin? Because you saw some people that just didn't get it. As soon as they announced it, you saw some people going, so what does that mean? XRP is only going to be worth $1. And I'm like, what? So how big is that news? And where do you see that being advantageous for XRP Ripple moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's huge. So even in the statement that Ripple put out, they talked about the benefit that it provides, right? It's XRP and the stablecoin. It's not just one or the other. I think a lot of people put out a lot of FUD, or maybe they just are ignorant to your point. Maybe they don't understand how this works. So an issued asset on the network can be frozen. It can be clawed back. It can have other things programmed with it. And there's counterparty risk. So if Ripple issues a stablecoin or whatever other party issues a stablecoin on the network, you're beholden to them when you're holding it. And whatever they say goes type of deal. And they're holding the backing for whatever it is. So it's 1-to-1 US dollars. You have to believe that they do have that backing. You can exchange the stable coin for whatever it is. Most people won't. They'll just use it to transmit payments with, right? And if both people on either side of the transaction want whatever that stable coin is, then it doesn't have to go through XRP. Okay. Right. But if somebody on the other side of the transaction wants something different than whatever that denomination is, then it's going to have to be swapped. Well, it's got to go through the DEX. It's got to move using XRP, right? So one person wants stocks and person wants dollars, you got to have that transaction. It'll sell into XRP, swap to the other, and then deposit to their account.
Right.
And XRP has no counterparty risk. It's not owned by anybody. The original account's been black holed, so you can't freeze the asset, you can't claw it back, you can't manipulate it, right? So that's pretty interesting for people that want that option, that don't want to be dependent on somebody else and have the counterparty risk. They want something to be able to transact with that is riskless. And so that's the other benefit that XRP provides aside from a stablecoin. So I put a video out about this and tried to explain it for people. But yeah, I think there were a lot of people out there that just didn't understand the implications for that and why it actually would be bullish for XRP as a whole. It's more value on the network as well, which we know more value on the network, more value has to be moved, higher price for the asset itself.
I love it. Guys, you guys can follow Jake over at @beyond_broke. You can also go over to his, I believe, let me see if I put this up as well. Let's see here. Now, do you have a actual, okay, I do see this right here. It's called, if you can talk about, what is this here?
Yeah, significantly.
Yeah, sure. What is significantly? I saw that on your link and I just hit it. Yeah. I didn't follow it, but what is that? If you can...
Yeah, so it's an end-to-end fund administration platform for Reg D funds. We try to make it really easy for anybody to raise capital for any purpose. It's in beta right now, and so should go live to the public here within the next couple of weeks. But it makes sure that you're in compliance when you're using the platform to raise capital. And we've done 13 deals over the last year. It's been a headache. You've got spreadsheets. You've got to file CIK form and the Reg D forms. You got to spin up the entities. You got to set up bank accounts. You got to be able to run the reporting and do the K1s. Like, there's just a lot of aspects of fund administration, even for small funds. So like if you're going to raise $250,000 or $500,000 for something, and you want to go in with your buddies, right, or with the people in your network, this software allows you to do that and know that you're doing it compliantly, and you don't have to worry about potential problems later on.
Yeah, I love it. Next question will be your thoughts. You brought up BRICS. How do you think Ripple will play into BRICS and the Bank of International Settlements? How do you think that's going to play out?
They have orchestrated partnerships with all those central banks, right? Bank of India, Brazil, I think that they did that on purpose, potentially. I know that they met with the Fed in 2014. Greg Kidd got them that meeting. He was like the fourth employee at I don't know even if, I think it was Ripple at that point. It may have even been OpenCoin. But this is what I would have said if they'd come to me and I was the Fed back in 2014. I'd have told you to pack rocks because I got the reserve currency. You stick your little, the scheme you got, take it somewhere else.
Right.
And so I don't know that that's what happened. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. And I know that, David Schwartz has talked about, they went to all of the smaller banks and started utilizing, RippleNet and integrating with them to basically force the larger banks to do it, because the larger banks are the incumbents, right?
Right.
Like, we're not going to change. We're stagnant. We got a lion's share of the transactions anyway. Why do we need to innovate? Well, now you've got competitors that can settle stuff faster and cheaper than you can. Now people might start transitioning away from you for those benefits, right? And so now you got some leverage, right? And so I think the same thing played out for other central banks. Maybe they went to the U.S. first and they told them, again, get out of here. And then that's when they started going around and aggregating all these other ones, including the BRICS nations. And then now the U.S. is like, okay, well, maybe we effed up. We probably need to get on board with that. And I think you're still seeing the last bit of that tension there in that adoption phase. The incumbents are going to fight tooth and nail to stay in spot, and until they have to break and succumb to whatever the new things are. And then they're going to want a big piece of that, right? So I don't know what's been orchestrated there. There's 1,700 pre-orchestrated contracts for the escrow that Ripple has that's come out in the lawsuit. All the names were redacted for who those agreements were with. But my expectation is there's probably some allotments for a lot of large enterprise players, institutions, and possibly governments as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. You brought up CBDCs. Is there a good versus bad with CBDCs? Your opinion?
There's a lot of fear mongering out there with CBDCs.
Right.
I'm a realist. Reality always ends up somewhere in the middle, right? It's not a utopia. It's not a dystopia. You're on a spectrum. Okay. Right. And I think each nation has cultural norms within their society that'll play into the governance that's involved with the stable coins or the CBDC that they use.
Right.
China's got social credit scores. They're a communist. Like, they can be an overlord and program the CBDC and cut off your bank account. It's not going to fly here in the West. And I know people are scared of that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of benefits that this stuff provides also, right? Like, I'm paying taxes. I think we need social programs. I would agree with that. Okay. But the people that get the food stamps and the other government subsidies, if they're swapping that for stuff that they shouldn't be, I would like to stop that.
I see.
Okay.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I want you, if you're getting food stamps, you should be spending it on food. And if it's a CBDC, we can program it to where it can only purchase certain things.
Right.
I'm all for that. And that's how I think it'll be used here. I think it'll be able to help people. I think we're probably headed for UBI. I've talked about that on other programs. I know I ruffle some feathers with that sometimes. I think that it'll be fine. I think the value that's created from a lot of the implementation of this technology in society will actually offset the ability to print money and hand it out to people that they can bring up their standard of living and pay for normal stuff. So like your rent, your food, like basic necessities. I think the UBI could be programmed to pay for that. And then that gives people freedom of choice, right? Now, if you don't want to work, you don't have to. But if you want to provide for value in society, you get to choose what value you're going to provide. You don't have to go hustle at that 9 to 5 or a couple 9 to 5s just to make ends meet. You can figure out what your passion is and then pursue that. And then, so I think it ends up being like another Renaissance period where people have the capability to go after the things and really think about, like you talked about backstage, you're like, well, what are you doing this for? People have the time to sit back and go, okay, like, what do I want to do with my life? I don't have to just run on the hamster wheel all the time. I have this cushion I can live on for a little bit here and really figure out, like, what value can I provide? What skill set can I garner? What value can I bring to society? And I think it will actually be better off for it.
Yeah, I think with people, Jake, they a lot of times we're in fear of what we don't understand. I remember when I owned cell phone stores back in the early 2000s. It was either late 90s, early 2000s, and people were just, I'm not gonna smartphones, and they're gonna be able to watch me, and until they start understanding FaceTime, and I remember being there with like older people saying, do you have anybody that you haven't seen in years that you'd like to see face to face without having to travel? And it was just like a boom, but they didn't understand. I mean, I can't even imagine what people thought process was that were on wagons and a horse thinking, you're going to put this gas in this machine.
And they had a whole bunch of laws around that. I don't know if you've ever seen that or not, but you had to have 3 people to drive a car when they first came out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like the incumbents, again, the people that were making all the money off the horses and wagons, they didn't want that to take off. And so they put a lot of red tape and legislation around that. So it's the same cycle. It happens every time. But eventually the better technology ends up winning out.
It's just crazy how, you could think of maybe our ancestors who were scared of that technology and now they're just kind of cruising back in a Mercedes. It's just crazy. Anyways, it's the things that we don't know. Okay. So let's go in a different direction. Stephen Nareth. It is one of the things that let me start with this before I go with Stephen Nareth. The SEC. Why deem ETH security now? Is that some false sense of justice that they want to give us, or because for so long Gary Gensler sat there and was just almost played stupid when he was in front of these congressional hearings or on these different news platforms? He would always avoid the question, wouldn't answer the question, and all of a sudden now ETH is a security, and I'm just going, why now? Like, is it because you're trying to disrupt the market and I don't know what his thought process is, or is it because you're trying to hurry up and get through it so you can get to a Ethereum ETF? Like, why now is my question. Why now?
Okay, we'll attack it from the why now, because there's 1,000 different ways I could go with that.
Okay.
So when Bill Hinman gave his speech in 2018, that was prior to their transition to proof of stake. Okay. And the network was decentralized. And we still don't know what is decentralized. There's no designation for that. My definition of decentralized is no more than one validator or node on the network earns more than 15% of the rewards or has more than 15% control.
Right.
Okay. That's just from other things that I've done. That's what I've translated to this. There is no specific definition.
Yeah.
But since they migrated to proof of stake, I would argue that pure proof of stake, where you do put your tokens into a pool, is a security. And the reason for that is you are providing them with an investment on the contingency that you're going to be paid a return for their efforts, right? So they're going to be validating transactions. They're going to be running the node. They're going to be doing certain things that are going to generate rewards for you. Okay. I think that delegated proof of stake will end up being not a security. There'll be something there that allows that to skirt that. But I think that pure proof of stake does end up being designated as security. And, why now? There's probably a lot that goes into that, some to do with Steve and what's come out around that. The ICO, backpedaling on some things, but I just don't know how they reel that back in. There's been so much precedent and other things that have happened because of the pass that was given. And now they're past the statute of limitation on things also.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have a really hard time dealing with that. But I do think that, a pure proof of stake where you are putting and locking up the crypto in somebody else's node or wallet does end up being deemed as security. And like I said, and maybe that's the SEC's argument. When we made the first pass on that, it wasn't proof of stake, it was proof of work. And now they've made the transition to this. And so that's how you could go from not being a security to actually being a security now. I think that's going to be their argument.
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating because it's almost like they let the monster get so big, and like you said, the statute of limitations ran out. Brad Garlinghouse himself said, "I don't think they're going to win that case." But yet we don't. XRP doesn't have a Stephen Narrow. We don't have a ETHGate or XRP Gate. We don't have a Wang Chang, Prometheum, China, J Clay. We don't have none of that. We were just picked on. I mean, I think they're like going through Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson's mail, just trying to figure out if they tip well or something. I mean, they got nothing. I mean, really, it's so ludicrous. I hate to use Mike Tyson's word, but ludicrous. But at the end of the day, it's just one of those things that is frustrating from a standpoint that what they did to XRP, they held it down. And it was nothing in the best interest of American people.
Well, but maybe it was, right. We are the reserve currency, and if you had something that could circumvent that and remove us from that position, look, I've been privileged my whole life to live here in this country and have that privilege of being the reserve currency and being able to export our inflation and have a dollar that was strong in comparison to other currencies.
Right.
Maybe it wasn't in America's best interest to suppress that, right? And maybe things weren't ready. I think they're a lot closer, or maybe are ready now.
Right.
And we needed that 3-year window to really set things up and make sure that the U.S. was ready for a transition where the dollar was no longer in control, right? And now the public's perception's changed also. A lot of times people don't do well when you have a trigger event or a snap change. You need kind of a boil the frog method, right? People warm up to stuff if they're exposed to it, and they're given reasons, and it's over a period of time rather than just a rapid change. And so maybe I think all that plays into why things happened the way that they did.
Right.
I'm not mad about it. It gave me more time to buy and get stuff set up. Right.
Yeah.
So, that's the way I think people should look at it. I think a lot of people are salty about it still.
Yeah.
And there were damages, right? There was a lot of people that sold and had problems and had their life savings in it that it plummeted, and they had hopes for it. And that's why there's investor protections in place, right? That's why retail normally can't get exposure to private equity and more risky investments, because people do make poor decisions if they aren't financially educated. And there's risks, but those weren't disclosed, right? And so that's really what it comes down to. But I think the timing is much better now.
Right. Well, we have almost 1,200 people now watching live between X and YouTube, and man, you're doing a phenomenal job. A lot of positive feedback here in the stream for you. Let's have a little fun if you don't mind. I want to go to a question that wasn't sent or we hear, I think it's Raw Powell or whatever. He always talks about, don't F this up. To me, one of the reasons that I started the show, Jake, is because, again, I was blessed with the height 6'8". It's not just my name. But not everyone's going to be able to dunk a basketball. Not everyone's going to have 8% body fat and be committed like Jake. Not everyone's going to be able to throw a football like Joe Montana. Not everybody's going to be able to sing. I mean, so for me, I found this to be almost an extension of what I did most of my life on being on stage, was to help give back, to help it's for the people. It's to get people to understand that this is an opportunity to dream again. I think so many people lost sight of whatever that real goal was in life because, and I hate to say this because I've got 6 kids and it was just more of a motivating factor. But, sometimes life gets in the way, man. I mean, responsibility is how I should say it. And they stop dreaming. They start settling for less. And I think that's where frustration comes. I think that's where depression comes. I think that's where a lot of things. So for me, crypto, to me, is the ultimate vehicle to dream again. And so in Jake's own words to the 1,200 people that are watching now and the people who probably thousands of people that will watch this later on the recording, what is your version when you look at this opportunity with XRP and Ripple? What would you say to someone to not F this up?
Man, I've been really blessed. I've been able to meet with over 600 or 700 people and have an intimate conversation and talk exactly about what you're discussing here. Their dreams, their hopes, where they think this could go, how they can set themselves up to make sure that they don't F it up. Right. And I love that. There's so many people and the commonality I found in this community and the people that have been attracted to this, one, they tend to have a relationship with God or a higher authority, whatever that is.
Yep.
And then second to that, is they're not gluttonous. They don't want a lavish lifestyle. They want to provide for themselves and their family. They want to take care of people. But anything beyond that, they just want to do wonderful things for society with. There's so many people that I've met that have philanthropic interests. And they have this, the dream isn't even for them. The dream is, I want to be able to help this demographic of people or the people in my neighborhood or my community or wherever it is. Right. And that's what I've been blessed with, the professionals in my life that I feel like we can help orchestrate that for people. We can set up nonprofits and foundations, public charities. We can set up charitable remainder trusts. We can put things in position where they're hedged and they can't be taken from you in trusts and LLCs, and make sure that you're able to mitigate any tax implications so that you can continue to build that wealth and then rehypothecate that into other areas of the economy that you want to bring up. Hand things, give people a hand up, you know what I mean? So that they can dream again. And I'm with you. I think a lot of the life has been beaten out of people just over and over and over again. And eventually you don't get back up.
Yeah.
Right? Like you just stay down and you're like, all right, well, I guess this is how it is. And I'm just going to have to grit and bear it. And there's really no hope for me. So why even dream? Why think about all the wonderful things that I could be capable of or might want, because I'm never going to have them. So it's just been a disappointment. But to your point, I think crypto does allow you have a way out. And there's not that many people here. I'm just being real with you.
Yeah.
If you look at the rich list, and shout out to Francis Bovine. If you guys don't follow him on Twitter, check him out. He's the one that puts that up and runs the analytics on that site.
Nice.
It's like 5.2 million wallets is all that exists for XRP. We're just a small subsect of the population that has any idea what crypto is, one.
Yeah.
And to have found the things that are really going to, have the significant ROI from here.
Yeah.
You're in a spot that most people are not.
Yeah.
And so here's another way that I made sure that I didn't F it up that I'll pass on. This is a tangible thing here.
Okay.
One, educate yourself and surround yourself with the right people. But two, you can escrow XRP on the network. So if you go to the XRP toolkit, you can attach your wallet. And if you think, like I'm gonna mess this up in any way, I've got XRP that comes back to me for the next 5 years.
Wow.
In different tranches. Okay. So like when I first got into it, I knew that I didn't have the skill set or the people or the mindset or everything that I was going to need to be successful. I thought it was going to happen a lot sooner than later. And so I was like, all right, how do I mitigate this risk? I'm just going to schedule this stuff out, in tranches, and it'll come back to me. And hopefully if I mess it up
right.
now and then, I know I'm going to have some in the future,
Right.
and hopefully it'll be worth a lot more than it is now.
Right.
And so that's what I would say. Educate yourself, make sure that you put the right people around you, and find those people now, because when you have money, and you've probably experienced this, and people realize you have money, the sharks come out.
Right.
You're going to run into people that don't have your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to take advantage of you. And if you are naive, if you're not educated on what's going, like, I take my car to the mechanic, and I'm not a car guy. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's $2,000. I'm like, for what?
Yeah.
He's like, this is this, and we did the labor, and I'm like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what it costs. I don't know what the parts were, all that stuff.
Right.
So I kind of take his word for it. You don't want to be in that position with your money.
No.
Okay. You want to understand like how returns are made, where the investments are. You want purview over all that. You need to be working with somebody that you can trust on those things. And if you find them now, the people that are willing to listen to you now, they're gonna be the good people. When the money's up, it's gonna be a hard time. You're gonna have a hard time telling who's there or not. So I'm not even saying come work with us. I've been able to build a team that I feel is trustworthy. Go find the people in your network that they're going to be the right people for you before that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm going to counter that and say definitely look up Jake and go work with him, because I think what you guys are doing is phenomenal. I want to end this right before my final question to you, because there's not everyone's going to be in Jake's position or 68J's position or Mike O's position or whoever. And I don't say this to be other than just you brought up the rich list. I think there's more people who aren't in position to get that 100,000 or that 500,000, whatever. So my question to you from a non-financial advice standpoint, do you feel that, a person, if they can just obviously dollar cost average, I've had some family members who are not so well off. And I think a lot of times our issue is, and I don't want to go too far off with this, is that we're programmed by, I don't want to say our parents, but we're programmed by a society. I just think it's slavery 101. Not as a race, but as all people, under a government that we get paid just enough not to quit. They give us just enough not to quit. We do just enough not to get fired, and then we look forward to retiring on just a fraction of what barely got us by in the first place. It's a matrix that's been created that if I do just a little bit more than my mom and dad, I made it. And so that's where I think that people have to wake up and understand this moment is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't know when we'll see that. We didn't get a call for Uber, we didn't get a call for Airbnb. We didn't get a call with Microsoft or Tesla, which, shouts out to, people with your mindset, to find it early. But I mean, this is something you don't want to mess up. So for me, when I talk to those family members, they're like, Jay, we're not you. We didn't play ball. We didn't do this. We didn't get into crypto. I say, look, man, and again, this is not to anybody listening. This is just me talking to my buddy Jake here. I said, man, get yourself 1,000 XRP and just go from there. I mean, and I've even told some family members, if you don't got it, go have a yard sale. Go, like, all the things that you'll figure out in order to go to the casino for the weekend and blow 500 to 1,000. Are you serious right now? Change some of your habits. Stop eating out every day. Like what is your family future worth to you? And so what would you say to the guy? I think I said 1,000 XRP because what if what if X, look, let me do this. And I hate to do this, but I'm gonna do this anyway. And I know I've shared it before, but I'm gonna do this because I want you to hear this and I want your feedback on this. And then I'm gonna finish that question out as we end this. I want you to listen to what I said here about people missing the boat here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
$10 XRP will change most people's lives. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. But I also agree it's going to probably be one of the biggest regrets that people made. Because again, if Allow Capital, who said a possibility of a $25,000 to $35,000 XRP by 2030, let's say they're 10% right. That's $2,500 to $3,500. Let's say they're 1% right. That's $250 to $350. Okay, screw them. Forget that. I mean, screw them, but forget that analogy. Let's go with Ripple itself. XRP, in order to work the way it has to globally, has to be at least $10,000. Okay, let's say they're 10% right. That's $1,000. Okay, let's say they're 1% right. That's $100. So my whole thing is, I think a lot of people are going to miss the 1% potential at $5 or $10, maybe $20. I think that's where people just have to have a solid plan because, I mean, $10 million isn't what it used to be back in the day. And again, that's not financial advice. I'm just saying people have to be smart. Everyone's going to have different levels. A $10 XRP changes a lot of people's lives. $100,000 changes a lot. So I'm not trying to dismiss that. All I'm saying is you should have levels of where you're cashing out. You have strategic levels of where you're cashing out, and I wouldn't go all out at a certain dollar. Again, that's not financial advice, but man, I don't know what's greater, to get $10 or to live with a life full of regretment if it potentially hits 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or anything else that they're saying. It'd be crazy. Between all of us here, the stocks of Pepto-Bismol are going to go up because you're going to have a lot of sick people that missed the boat. $10.
So that's my little. I ended it with a little comedy.
Yeah,
Good. But the point I'm trying to make is that I just believe that if any of those numbers, even if it's a fraction, 1,000 XRP could change your life, and just kind of dollar cost. Your thoughts if you're talking to a person, look, man, I don't have a lot, Jake. Would you say at least start somewhere like that?
I'll give you two. So my barber, a good guy, was a musician, played for a long time, dated Miranda Lambert.
Oh wow.
He sharp guy, doesn't have that much money. Talking to him, telling him about stuff, and he's like, I got $500 in a savings account that's normally for like tires and like shit hits the fan. Excuse my French. Right. He's like, if I put it in there, like, what do you think? I'm like, I can't tell you what to do, man. But right. You're 42. If you just sit on your hands and do what you're going to do anyway for 10 years, this little bit that you put away, because you don't got a retirement, right? Just put a little bit away. And if I'm wrong, you lost a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm right, you're done. You can retire. You can take care of your kids' college. Like there's a bunch of stuff that'll play out. Even if, like you said, we're 1% right.
Right.
He's going to be set up. And the traditional way to save for retirement is, pile it away in your 401k and hope for the pension and hope for your Social Security. Those things ain't going to be there. Right. We know they're not going to be there. So if just stick a little bit away. And then the second thing I'll say, I had a lady reach out last week. Her father just passed away, but rest his soul. And her and her 4 siblings are each getting 700 Bitcoin apiece.
700 Bitcoin apiece?
Yes. Wow. Their dad bought 500 Bitcoin at 7 cents a piece. He put $500 in Bitcoin when it was 7 cents and just let it sit there. Forgot about it.
Oh my gosh.
So
God bless him. Wow.
Yeah. Like imagine that
wow.
Your kid gets $50 million.
Oh, that's crazy.
Upon your death, because you made a small investment and you forgot about it 10 years ago.
Wow.
Okay. So anyway, that's the type of implication that you could have for your kids or your life.
That's right.
Just like a little bit of money, right? And most people aren't taught to invest. They're not taught about this stuff. You're taught go to school, get a degree, get a job. Take the long road that's more traveled. Everybody, this is the road to success.
Right.
It's not the road to success. It's the road to retire at 65 and die at 67 and get 2 years of poor quality of life while you burn through what little bit you got. That's not any fun, man. No. I'm trying to retire. Well, not retire, but enjoy my life.
That's right.
While my kids are still young, right?
That's
Be able to take them places and expose them to things. And you can't do that on a salary. It's not ever going to happen. And this is a chance, right? We could be wrong. You and I don't have a crystal ball. Jay.
No, we don't. No.
But the circumstances say that it's a likelihood that this is going to work out for people.
Yeah.
And if it does just to 1%, like you said, it makes a big impact for people's lives. So that's, just 2 stories for you. One that's already played out because a guy just happened to throw something when it was super cheap at Bitcoin. And then another one, a direct relationship that I have that hopefully changes his life just because he heard a guy in a barbershop and took a chance.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's crazy because I got questions that keep popping up in my head. But, you think of that story and, I know you hear this all the time. I shoulda, coulda, woulda. I wish I would. What would I? What was I doing back in 2008 or whatever the thing is? And it's like you have an opportunity once again. I mean, people don't realize Bitcoin was 5 cents. I mean, like, and it's 70,000. Like, what are you not understanding? You're talking about something better. Brad Garlinghouse calls Ripple the Amazon of crypto. And it's like, okay, so if you miss Amazon, what are you doing? Like, how many stories have to pass you by before you get it? And so I want you to elaborate on this. After this, I got one final question for you, and that's it. I've heard since I've been in this space since 17, and I'm sure you've heard since you've been in the space, 90% of the stuff that's out right now won't even be around. And
99.
Yeah, and you got people banking their livelihood and their futures. And I will never mention a coin because there's some people, I've done it before, man. People have gotten pissed at me for talking about dog coins and everything else. And I'm not, so I always say people are banking on Chicago coin because it's got 15 zeros. And they're like, if it just loses 8 zeros,
it's 1 penny.
Oh my God, yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be worth 100 trillion billion. And it's just like, dude, like, so for me, if you can just talk about that, and just the feelings on, I mean, this is our moment, man. Don't and some of the stuff that's people are in won't be around, and they just don't get it. One of the things I remember Gary Gensler saying is, and I don't like quoting him very much at all. I actually make fun of him quite a bit on my show. He said, just because Ripple fought this fight or XRP doesn't mean everyone else is going to get a free pass. And they don't understand that. Like Library, God bless her soul. I feel so bad for him.
That was a brilliant idea.
They just didn't have the money, to fight the fight, man. A brilliant idea, but they didn't have the money to defend themselves. I remember the video Elon did back when Twitter was, before it was X, and he was emotional. And he said, the SEC came after me. And he goes, I knew I wasn't wrong. He goes, but I had to pay up to save my baby. What else was I going to do? And not everybody can do that. So just talk about that. It might be too much to talk about as I do it on all these areas, but the fact that 90% of the crap or 99 that you're saying won't be around. And man, this is our opportunity, man, Jake.
Well, so I'll tell you another story.
Okay.
I was just in New York. I spoke at in NFT NYC. I was up there with my legal counsel. I went to dinner with my CIO and some of his partners.
Okay.
And was telling them how I was positioned and how we had built the funds and how all that worked. And they were super excited about the hedges that we had put in place and how we mitigated risk and orchestrated everything. And then they asked me about my position, and I was like, this is where I'm at. And they were like, you just told us how you're mitigating risk and doing all those other things and making sure that people aren't going to lose money over here. And you're siloed in this one thing in a long position.
Yeah.
Like how's that supposed to make us feel? And I'm like, look, this is a once in a lifetime deal. And they're like, oh, come on, man. Like, you feel like that now, but there's lots of once in a lifetime opportunities. And they started naming stuff off in their lifetime that were like big deals, right? Like the Amazons, like the other stuff you're saying. And maybe they're right. Okay. Maybe this isn't just the once in a lifetime opportunity. But for me, the way I look at it is every 100, 120 years, there's a change in the currency system. And somehow you and me figured out what's going to be a part of it. Okay. I don't know about you. I might live another 100 years. We'll see, with the advances in technology and health and all that stuff. Cool. Maybe I'll get another 100 years. Maybe I'll be 130, 135. I don't think so though. Right. If I'm just being realistic.
Right.
And so literally this is a once in a lifetime currency transition that's going to happen. And somehow I figured out one of the pieces that's going to be instrumental in that transition. And somehow I aggregated a decent position in it. Okay. And so that's how I think about it. This literally is a once in a lifetime opportunity for people. And there will be other stuff. There'll be private investments. There'll be other opportunities, but nothing that has this magnitude. Like, when I talk about a tier one asset in the banking system and something else being given a designation as a tier one asset in the banking system, that happens like maybe once every 50 years. So U.S. Treasuries was the only tier one asset in the banking system after, so gold was removed and then brought back in 2019. But 50 years before that, it was just U.S. Treasuries.
Yeah.
And if you had bought U.S. Treasuries, you can take loans against that. There's a lot of leverage. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with it. So now you're telling me I can own something that's going to appreciate substantially while it's a tier 1 asset, like literally never existed before, ain't ever going to exist again.
That's right.
And anything else that's like, I think this whole ecosystem was created because of where we're positioned. I think, well, I won't get into all that, but there's a lot of stuff out there that's going to go away.
Right.
And I'm risk adverse.
Right.
When I go to the casino, I take $100.
Yeah.
Okay? That's my risk tolerance.
Right. Right.
That's my fun money. If I lose my 100, I'm out.
Right.
I played my slots. I had my fun.
Right.
Cool.
Right.
If I get up $100, I also walk.
Yeah.
I double my money. I'm out. Like
Yeah.
other people sit there gambling the whole time.
Yeah.
I'll pull my money out the machine and I'm done.
Yeah.
I just stand by my wife and watch her play.
Yeah.
But this is the only thing I'm absolutely sure on too. It's the only thing that's been given any clarity aside from Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right. And I missed the boat on Bitcoin. But we don't talk about that.
That's right.
So if I know that there's one now that has legal clarity in the U.S. is not a security, and these large institutions are going to be using it at scale to be able to transmit value, and that's likely going to cause price appreciation. That's my bet, man. And yeah, if you're in anything else, I'm not saying not to be diversified.
Right.
The whole fund structure that we built out has diversification and hedges and shorts and options and all kinds of stuff to mitigate risk. But for me, you can tell that I try to be as educated as I can.
Yeah.
On all this stuff. And I'll say one thing. Well, I'm rambling on here, but I'm touching.
No, you're good. No, you're good. Take it down.
One of my mentors is Howard Getson. You're not going to know who he is. He runs an AI hedge fund.
Okay.
Brilliant man. He's got a book that's coming out that's fantastic later this year. I don't bug him very often. Only when I have something pressing and I'm looking for some guidance. So I was telling him about, where I was positioned, and he was like, I can't even listen to what the investment is because it's so far against the thesis and how I orchestrate everything in my life that I'm so pissed off at you right now that you would even consider doing that. And he's like, this is the problem. You're smart enough. You're probably right.
Yeah.
And he's like, and then you're going to carry that on with you for the rest of your life because you write about this one, you're going to think you're going to write about the next one, and you're going to F it up.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to take that to heart, and I'm only going to do this one.
Right.
And then the rest of it's going to be diversified and mitigated and orchestrated to make sure that I can't mess it up after that. And that's the other thing I would say. Making wealth and maintaining wealth are two very different skill sets.
Big time.
I've seen people, one guy I know made a lot of money on Ethereum, lost it all on Terra Luna. So
yeah,
when I'm talking like 9 zeros type.
Oh, Jesus.
So if we are right here, I would just encourage you, make sure that you don't mess it up on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Figure out how you can diversify, make sure that you're hedged, even though this asset will continue to grow and do well and be used and accrue value. You're going to want to hedge those risks and make sure that it may not be that way for forever. So each cake while you got it, make sure you got stuff on down the line too.
Yeah, I got one question that a guy's asking. Atlantic Living is on the screen, and I'm going to ask you that question after I show you something. Because here's the thing, you said something at the very beginning of this, which just made me admire you even more. And that is, you didn't crap on Bitcoin. You didn't talk negative on Bitcoin. You didn't say Bitcoin was, you got so many people, in order to get their objective of why they're passionate about something, they tend to crap on something else. And you don't do that. You said several times, I missed it. I acknowledge it, but I'm not going to get it wrong this time,
right.
And so I want to show something that I actually said here in regards to that, and then we'll go into this question. So when I sit up here and I get frustrated about people who don't get, and they think it's a joke with Joe Katz and Brad Garlinghouse and Chris, all these guys are just crazy. Really? Satoshi was crazy too? Was everybody crazy when you could get Bitcoin a Bitcoin for 50 cents or less than a penny? I mean, last time I checked, it's 70-something thousand now. Is it still a joke? I don't care what people think about it. Is it a joke? So regardless of your mindset, history is going to repeat itself with something that's even greater than Bitcoin. XRP, they're not even on the same page. The reason you think Bitcoin is greater than XRP is because of the damn price, not because of what it actually does. If you think that, you're crazy, right? So people who were working at McDonald's last year, and all of a sudden they're a big time YouTuber, and they're telling you, I'm a genius because I understand Bitcoin and crypto. Wait a minute, really? Do you understand business? Are you a shiller? Are you taking responsibility for the things that you say? See, people who understand business follow successful people, right? We all get it. And so I think that's really the narrative that people have to understand. If you're in this long term, know what you hold. People say it all the time, know what you hold. And I think that's what it really comes down to, Edo. So I say that because you heard me say that earlier. Success leaves. I've always followed. I mean, I believe that with everything that I am. I always follow successful people, and it just not do what they say, but just listen to what they have to say, and then do my own research to come up with my own opinion. And so that's what's led me right in this space so far. Your comment on that before I get into this last question by Atlantic Living.
Like I told you backstage, I don't think I'm smarter than anybody else. I've had the privilege to be around people that I really admire, and I get it. Like I said, I paid a lot of money that I wasn't comfortable paying to get into rooms that I wasn't supposed to be in. And maybe that's imposter syndrome, right? A lot of people deal with that, especially on the way up. But if you can do that, and you can find the people that have what you want to have and live in the life that you want to live, and you can emulate what they're doing, you can have it too. They're not any better, any different. Like there's a lot of extremely intelligent people that I know that are broke.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that I know that are dumber than a box of rocks that are extremely wealthy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I can tell you exactly what you're saying is true. If you, all you got to do is figure it out, right? Like you find somebody else that has what you want, and you figure out how they got it, and then you just do the work, whatever that's required to get there. And it's not about, it is about who you know. I will say that. Like your network is your net worth. That matters. And that's part of the game. People can be mad about that all they want. How you look matters. It's part of the game.
Yeah.
And there's rules, right? And the problem I think for a lot of people is they don't understand the rules of the game, and they get mad.
Yeah.
I was one of those people for a long time when I was younger. And when you start to see these correlations and these patterns, like you said, success leaves clues.
Yeah.
So if you can figure those out and then just start doing those things, it takes time, it takes work, but you'll be there. You know
what I thought was so amazing about your story and about the dad. It wasn't a PhD. It wasn't some special skill. He bought it the right time and held with that Bitcoin 5-cent store. I mean, what thing did he have that everyone watching the stream doesn't have? It was an opportunity. It was a vision too. He just did it. Oh man, that's such a, I love that story, man. I hope everyone takes that photo. So the last question before we get out of here, guys, really bad crash today. What can you guys say to those who can't handle the bad crash today? And my gosh, man, wow. How would you answer that, Jake? Emotions are a killer.
This was not that bad. If you've been here long enough, you know this is not that bad.
Yeah.
Don't look at your portfolio.
Man.
Don't even look at it. I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars in a day, and I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in a day. Okay.
Yep.
And that's not real, right?
Yeah.
Until you sell, those aren't real. None of that is. And if you believe in the underlying technology of whatever you're invested in, and that's why it's easy to like hold XRP or some of these other assets that people, I'm sure in the audience, are holding, you have conviction around it. You know that it's going to be used at scale. And at that point, it's whatever price it's going to be, right? So the price you see today, price is just a distraction.
Yeah.
And it will play on your emotions. If you're staring at it, if that's what you're consumed with, you're going to make poor choices. Anytime you get emotional, you make poor choices.
Yeah, big time.
You should make a plan and then stick to that plan. And that's with everything in life. Like there's your relationship, your business, your career, your education, your finances and your investments, all that stuff. If you can make a plan and just be disciplined and stick to your plan, you're going to be successful. If you get emotional and you make rash choices, that's where you're going to falter. So
for those of you guys who don't get why I bring people on like Jake, It's just so much validation. I always talk about the 5 things, strategic plan, strategic in the fact that, people got on the Titanic had a plan. I mean, you got to have a strategic plan. Number 2 is do your own research. No matter what I say, Jake says, do your own research. The 3rd thing is control your emotions, man. That's the biggest killer in this space. Jake, when Judge Annalisa Torres ruling came out, my XRP by itself went up almost $1 million. And so if I was full of emotions and I didn't have a plan, I would be sick as hell right now. Right.
Oh,
so,
yeah, because you're down from there. You're back to like 92 cents or something.
Yeah, exactly. So, and some people who are real good friends of mine in this space knows what I'm talking about. And then the 4th thing is, like you said, you've made nothing. I know so many people that in 2021, I'm a millionaire, and then it went down, I'm a thousandaire. I mean, it's just like you got to take profit and do it at levels that you're comfortable with, part of that plan. And then number 5, always stay focused on your why, which for me is family, children, which I'm sure is a lot of the same as far as you. What's your final words for everyone that's watching as we close this down? Anything that you want to say, final words?
Thank you for having me on and taking the time. Really excited about what you're doing in the space, and just kind of reiterate a lot of the conversation that we've had. You never go broke taking profit.
Yep.
Have a plan and execute on it. There's going to come a point where this stuff does appreciate, and hopefully where you're going to put the money. I see so many people that have an exit strategy. They're like, I'm going to take 10% here and 20% here, and these are my price points. And then I'll ask them, okay, what are you going to do with that capital? And they're like, I don't know. Okay, cool. Like, you made the money. Like, how are you going to put it to work to make sure it serves you and your family?
That's right.
Because it's a tool. It's not the end all be all. All these are just resources, and to those that have, more will be given. To those that do not, more will be taken away. Right.
That's
and
right.
if you understand what to do with this stuff, then you're going to continue to have. And if you don't, then the reason Bezos and these other people have as much money and resources as they do is they understand where to put it and how to make it work for them.
That's right.
And more money will keep coming to you. If you're a good allocator of resources, then you'll continue to gain resources. People that don't know how to allocate resources, they're taken away from them. That's how capitalism works. You can be mad or upset about that. I know a lot of people want socialism or communism or some of these other paradigms because they're not a good allocator of capital or resources. And again, that's part of the game. I didn't make the rules. I just play by the rules that are here.
I agree.
So that would be what I would say. Figure out. So this is my definition of financially free. Okay. And it's not to be a millionaire or a billionaire or any of these things. What are your bills? Draw out your dream lifestyle. Okay. I don't know what that is for you. For me, it's $50,000 a month in income. Okay. That's as lavish as I can make it. Okay.
Right.
And you want to be able to have twice that amount in passive income. Okay. And then you can figure out, now that's tangible. That's a goal. You can figure out how to work back from there. So what do I need to invest in to be able to cash flow $100,000 a month? Or what type of business do I need to build? What needs to happen for me to have passive income for $100,000 a month? And then I'm financially free. And some people, they don't need that much. Okay. Some people that's $10,000 a month. Some people that's $5,000 a month. And if you can get double that in passive income, you're financially free.
Wow.
So that's the way I like to think about things. Like I talked about before, allocate those resources into something that cash flows for you. It's a business. You got it structured a way that you can mitigate the tax implications on it. People get mad about Bezos and all these other large companies that don't pay any taxes.
Right.
There's a reasons for that. They're trying to incentivize you to spend the money a specific way to distribute those resources appropriately in an economy. And they create incentives for you to do that. That's why you get the tax breaks. Again, don't make the rules. we just play by them, right?
That's right.
And all the professionals that I work with, they know the tax code like the back of their hand, okay? And so they're able to make sure that we structure things and put you in a position and ourselves in a position where you don't have to pay a whole lot in taxes. You probably still have to pay some. That's just part of the deal. But the more money in your pocket, the more good you can do. Right. Like I talked about before, you can put that back into your community. You can put it in a nonprofit. You can give back to your church or your whatever you want to do with it that you feel is going to make the world better.
Right.
So anyway, that's all I got to say. Hopefully, if nothing else, if it's just one person that listens to this starts thinking about those things and puts a plan together and executes on it, then all this was worth it.
Brother, I'm with you wholeheartedly. You guys do me a huge favor. Go over and support my brother Jake. I've given you his platform. You can go back and watch the recording, and it's also in the comments. I see Danny says Jake is really smart and then some. So I appreciate you guys in a major way. Guys, also make sure you tune in tonight. In just a few hours, we're going to have a ladies' night, man. You got to love it. So we're going to have ladies' night with my friend Molly Elmore. We're going to have Shannon Thorpe. We've got World Be Free, Puerto Rican Queen, and Optimistic Prime, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jake, thank you so much, brother. It means the world to me. And I promise you this, and for all those that are watching, I'm going to connect with Jake because I want to be able to make money on my money, and that's a fact. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you in a major way.
Thank you for having me, brother. I enjoyed this.
For the almost over 1,400 people now watching live, thank you guys so much. It's your boy James, aka 68J. And until next time, peace. We're all stream, brother.